Okay, so thanks ever so much for joining us tonight. It's really good to see you. This webinar is the second in a series we've done since the settlement was announced last week. And our aim tonight is to try and answer some of the questions which my colleague Jasmine and team have had coming in from people, and to give you a quick outline of our take on what's happened. So we've got a good panel with us tonight. Got my colleague Gareth, who is our Director of Corporate and External Affairs, who has been crunching the numbers on the settlement from the Department of Health. And we've got Jasmine Shah, who is head of our advice and support team, who's been taking lots of calls from NPA members asking about some of the details. So Gareth's going to kick us off, and then Jasmine is going to dive into some of the detail, talk through some of the questions we've had cropping up, and hopefully answer any questions that you have through the chat. So without further ado, let's get into it, and I'll hand over to Gareth.
Thank you very much, Ben. So yes, I'm going to just give a bit of an overview of the big announcements over the last 2 weeks, and what they mean and how we might interpret them. So can I have the next slide, please? So just under 2 weeks ago, NHS England finally published its economic analysis. This was commissioned many years ago, and has involved scrutinising the accounts of community pharmacy businesses across England. First time since 2011, when the cost of service inquiry was undertaken, that an independent government commissioned review has actually looked at the cost of delivering the community pharmacy service. So this found that the cost in the financial year 23-24 was just over 5 billion. And actually, they predict that over the coming years, that will increase to 8 billion. So in fact, the current year that we're in, their prediction is that the cost of delivering the community pharmacy service this year is around about £6 billion. They found that 99% of pharmacies had funding which was lower than the full economic cost. Obviously, none of this is a surprise to anyone in the sector, but it's hard independent evidence to prove the problem. Half of pharmacy companies may struggle to meet their debts over the next year. Around 40%, 47%, so almost half of pharmacies were not profitable in the last accounting year. And 78% of pharmacies risk being unsustainable in the short run. As I say, not a surprise to anybody in the sector, and proof of the way that NHS funding has failed over the last decade to support community pharmacy in the way that is required. Government had kept this report under wraps. We had asked for it to be published, but it was published just a couple of days before the funding announcement. So that was the backdrop, and if we've gone to the next slide, we've got the details of the actual offer. So 4% uplift in 24-25, but no injection of cash because it's all deemed to have been earned. A 14% uplift in the global sum 25-26. On top of that, 250 million for pharmacy services delivered under the primary care recovery plan. So that includes pharmacy first and elements of contraception and hypertension too. A one-off write-off of excess margin, not every bit of excess margin that's outstanding, but the vast majority of the outstanding excess margin, as determined by the DHSC calculations, has been written off. So that doesn't really mean anything in terms of cash flow benefits that you'll see now. Rather, you're not going to suffer the negative consequences of money being taken out. The national living wage, national insurance uplifts, they have to be dealt with from within the funding that's been given. There's nothing especially earmarked for that. There have been some service fee increases. Jasmine will pick that up a little bit later on. The margin has been increased to 900 million, and we've got some new services for NMS and a new emergency contraception service. Next slide, please. So that's an overview of the offer. then I suppose we ask the question, was it a good offer? Was it a fair offer? And there are a number of different ways you can answer that question. So this financial year, 25-26, the NHS as a whole has seen an uplift of 5.8%. The global sum uplift alone is worth about 15%. You can add on to that some of the new Pharmacy First money, although not all of it, because some of it was made available in 24-25. So it's difficult to put a precise percentage on the uplift, just because of the fact that it's not all coming through the global sum, and we can't be sure that all of the money for Pharmacy First will be earned. But it's certainly in excess of 15% has been offered this year, and you can effectively add the council clawback onto that. So community pharmacy has had a lot more than the average uplift for the NHS, significantly more. So from that perspective, you might think that community pharmacy has done well. But if we go on to the next slide, we have to consider it in the context of the economic analysis. We've talked recently in recent years about the fact that community pharmacy used to get 2.5% of the entire NHS budget. By 23-24, that was down to 1.5%, and we can see in the current financial year it's crept up to 1.7%. So step in the right direction, but a long way short of where it needs to be, particularly with pharmacy's role expanding. And the next slide, please. Really, and this slide actually really looks at that data from the economic analysis. So in 2023-24, there was a payment of 2.592 billion to the sector, but actually, according to the economic analysis, there was a shortfall of 2.47 billion. And if you move across 2 years to the current year, but if we include the off margin, the funding for community pharmacy is just under 3.5 billion, but that still means there's a 2.5 billion shortfall. Effectively, community pharmacy is having to subsidise the NHS for that sum. So yeah, a very considerable shortfall there. And another way of looking at this, if we go to the next slide, is to think about actually how big the shortfall is in 2023-24, which is so 2 years ago, the year when the economic analysis was undertaken, it was around about 49%, about the same last year, and it drops to 42% this year. So very, very large shortfall indeed. I think we always knew government couldn't close the gap within 1 year. We've had some positive words from the minister about the way forward and the growing role of community pharmacy and the recognition of the need to ensure that community pharmacy becomes sustainable. But there's a lot more to do to reach that point. So that's a brief summary of both the economic analysis and the announcement. In a second, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Jasmine to talk through in a bit more detail what this means. But before we do that, we do have a poll to run. So hopefully that will appear on your screen any minute now. So what are your feelings now, having received the news last week and had a chance to reflect on it? How are you feeling about it? So thank you. Quite a few people have responded so far. Interestingly, we seem to have a bit of a spread. Frustrated seems to be the strongest sentiment, currently entirely understandable. We know a lot of people are angry, and you have every right to be, that the community pharmacy is not getting the full support it requires. And some people thinking business as usual as well. I think people's views are actually mixed, but entirely understandable. There's a huge feeling of frustration out here where we have leading economists giving the true requirement to fund the community pharmacy service, and then government not getting anywhere near to that. It is definitely frustrating for everybody, with all the incredible work that's put in community pharmacy. Great. Thanks for everybody for sharing your views. I'll now hand over to Jasmine to talk through more of the detail.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Gareth. And I'm just wondering, before we kick off and we talk about some of the changes to the fees and some regulatory changes coming in, might be interesting also, just off the back of the poll that you've just completed, to find out, which particular bits are perhaps a little bit grey for you, not really clear on. So I'm just wondering, Helen, would it be possible, please, to run the second poll as well?
No, if you just can put your responses in chat, we'll pick up from there. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks, everyone. So you'll be aware a number of announcements has sort of covered the fees and regulatory changes. I have picked out to share with you today some of the key points about the fees changes, but also highlighting some of the questions that we have received in the pharmacy advice and support team, which are particularly centering around the PQS, the learning to be undertaken from CPP as part of the PQS, questions around the core hours, the distance selling pharmacies changes, outsourcing of NMS, as well as perhaps understanding the timetable of how all of this is going to unfold. So without further ado, let's dive in. Helen, could we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this is a very brief overview summary of the changes. The key change here is the single activity fee that's going up by 19 pence. I'm going to show you a worked example in a minute as well about what that means in terms of the income from that. But other key changes is a £7 increase in the pharmacy contraception service for the initiation and continuation fees. Pharmacy First has also gone up by £2, but please note very carefully that that does not cover the urgent med supply route. It only covers the minor illness and clinical pathways consultations. And that's the consultations that have actually passed the gateway point. The NMS, the fee structure, as you will know, has been quite complicated with different target-based tiers, and that is being simplified completely to just make it a flat fee of £14 for the initial intervention and £14 for completing follow-up consultations. And the hypertension case finding, I think the clinic checks is seeing quite a decrease by £5 with a little bit increase in the ABPM. Next slide, please, Helen. Thank you. So this is a very quick worked example of what does the increase in single activity fee mean. Before April, when it was £1.27 per item, you can just see quickly the worked example over the course of the year, what that brings in. And the change by 19 pence increase to it increases the income over the course of the year. So at 5,000, 8,000 and 10,000 items, you can see the increases is 11,000 upwards from there. And you'll be able to do a similar calculation yourself based on the number of items per month that your pharmacy dispenses. Thank you, Helen. Next one, please. Thank you. So we've had some questions around the PQS, particularly when the payment will be made, which is why I've highlighted that in yellow in this slide. Aspiration payment is continuing and the claim window will open in May, with expectation the payment will be made on the 1st of July 2025 for that. So if you're planning on participating in the PQS, then please make sure to watch out for the claim window opening in May 25. And obviously, we will keep you updated through our communications channels as well, to just a reminder. The gateway criteria that has to be met by 31st August requires the pharmacy to be signed up to deliver both the Pharmacy First service and the pharmacy contraception service, and to also remain registered for both services until the end of the scheme, which is 31st of March 2026. Now, the declaration period for the end of the scheme, it starts on the 2nd of February and ends on the 27th of February. And again, we will send reminders nearer the time, including support with how to complete our new NMS updated PQS pack, is already available on the website, and we can send the links out as needed as well. There are two domains this time. One is patient safety, one is medicines optimization. The details are provided in the drug tariff chapter. So please do have a look, and we've got information on our website about the PQS requirements as well. Thank you, Helen. Next one, please. Thank you. So I've included this slide in here because we've had questions around deregistering from the service, where people might have deregistered from the service or might have been thinking about it. But the reason I've reminded here is if you are going to be participating in the PQS, it is really important to remain registered for the Pharmacy First and the contraception service. And if you have deregistered from either one of the services already, then please note that once you've deregistered, you're not able to re-register again for 4 months from the final day of the 30-day notice period you might have given for either service. And that is really important because to participate in the PQS, you'll need to make sure that you are registered to deliver it at least by the end of August, to be able to participate in the scheme. So this is a very quick reminder. And even if you participated, you've got to remain registered to deliver the services until the end of March. But BSA will recover payments back from contractors if they choose to deregister after the close of the declaration period, but before 31st of March. So just please be aware of that. If you're not providing the service currently, do start thinking about how you will be registering for it and providing it if you wish to participate in the PQS. Thank you. Helen, next one, please. Thank you. So this is a very brief summary of the different types of learning that needs to be undertaken under the PQS. 3 main CPP learnings: consulting with people with mental health problems. That is to support the deployment of the addition of depression as a treatment therapy area in the NMS. And that learning can be completed within the period of 4 years, anytime from 1st April 22 to the end of March next year, 26. The emergency contraception learning also has an assessment with it, and that needs to be completed in the 3 years leading up to 31st of March 26. And the sepsis needs to be completed within the 2-year period ending in 31st of March. They're varying time periods, so please be aware of that when you are looking at your pharmacists and pharmacy technicians, and when they've undertaken the training, and what type of evidence you will need to submit as part of your PQS declaration. And of course, please do keep the evidence because if there is a post-payment verification exercise you're involved in, you will have to submit that evidence as well. Thank you, Helen. Next one, please. Thank you. So just coming on to core hours very quickly. I'm highlighting this particularly here about the 100-hour pharmacies and also what that means. So the proposed regulatory change that has been announced is to allow applications to change the timing of the core hours, the times during the days when those core hours are delivered, or on which weekdays, or within the 7-day week. The proposed changes do not mean that contractors will be able to reduce the core hours any fewer than 40, for example, or indeed any fewer than 72 hours. So the changes is not about a reduction in core hours, it's about the distribution of the core hours in the week. So that's really important. I would say subject to change in regulations, because until we know the detail of the changes, we still need to then figure out how those changes will be applied in practice. But one thing is definitely clear, that people with 100-hour pharmacies will need to continue to provide services between 5 and 9 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and 11 to 4 on Sundays. So regardless of whatever changes come in to allow the sort of change the distribution of the core hours, those hours for 100-hour operators will not change, even if they've been reduced to 72 hours. Thank you, Helen. Next one, please. Thank you. So this is a very busy slide, and you don't need to read all of it right now. What I was just trying to show here is what the changes to the DSPs are likely to mean. Now, obviously, again, we're waiting for the changes to the actual regulations and to read the wording of it before we know exactly how they will come into force. But this is our current understanding about how the different services. So one thing I have included the column here about on-site, because we know that nothing will be permitted to be provided on site on the DSP premises itself. And that includes DMS as an essential service. We've had questions around that, or any of the advanced services or the enhanced or the national enhanced services here. So this is what our understanding is currently is likely to happen once the regulations have changed, where DSP pharmacies will no longer be permitted to offer any services like advanced, enhanced, or national enhanced from the premises once the regulatory changes have come into force. That is expected to be around about October time. So this is a very brief summary of how each of the service might be affected, and something to help you think about it, hopefully. Thank you. Next slide, please, Helen. Thank you. We've had a number of questions around the outsourcing of the new medicine service. And again, this is a quick summary of how we understand the changes are likely to come about. And the one thing we get asked about is, why is this changing? But I think it's really important to acknowledge that there is actually no provision for subcontracting of the NMS service, even within the existing service specification. What is going to happen is a clarity of the wording in the service specification to make it absolutely clear that NMS may not be provided via remote consultation with the patient by a pharmacist who is working off the premises, who is not employed by the owner. So this is our current understanding that I've summarized in the table here, that a pharmacist who is employed by the pharmacy owner, they will be able to provide the NMS on site, in person, face to face, or indeed through remote consultation from the premises. But also equally, they should be able to offer it from off-site, from another location, or working from home. But where the pharmacist is not employed, then the off-site is where it will be stopped. And we need some further clarity around the interpretation of that. But again, we will find out more information once the service specification and the details around that have changed. Thank you, Helen. Next one, please. Thank you. So I'll put together a very quick timetable here just to help people see what the month-to-month changes are. So in April, we've had a number of changes, particularly around the fees come through and the start of the PQS scheme. From April, in April, the big changes, the PQS aspiration payment claim window will open. And then from June, that's where it becomes really interesting, in that the bundling of services starts to receive the monthly fixed payments for providing the pharmacy first service. So as you know, currently, the threshold is 30 consultations at the clinical pathways passing the gateway point to receive the £1,000. From June, that is changing. So delivery of 20 to 29 consultations of the clinical pathways passing the gateway point will garner a £500 month fixed payment, and more than 30 or more consultations will mean £1,000 a month. But from June also, to receive that fixed payment of either £500 or £1,000, pharmacy must be registered and also providing the hypertension case finding service and the pharmacy contraception service as well to actually receive that monthly payment. And then in July, the PQS aspiration payment will be made on the 1st of July. And then in October, a number of other changes come through, where the bundling of services is expanded. So to receive that monthly fixed payment of £500 or £1,000, in addition to delivering the hypertension case finding service and the contraception service, the pharmacy must also deliver at least 1 ABPM per month to qualify for that payment. And depression will be added as a therapy area in the NMS from October as well. Pharmacy contraception service will be expanded to include emergency contraception as well. And that is obviously subject to the IT developments. And that's when the changes to the DSPs will also kick in from October. So a lot of things are going to happen around October time. And then in March 26, further expansion is expected in the bundling, where at the moment, in addition to the providing the 3 services and the 1 ABPM, pharmacy contractors will also have to deliver a specified number of contraception service consultations per month to qualify for that 500 or £1,000 monthly payment. So as we go through this time period, we will keep on sending information your way through the superintendent updates and various other sources. So please do keep an eye out for our communication. Next slide, please, Helen. Thank you. So we are here to help. The link here is to our membership hub portal, where all of our resources for the services, the information on the funding, all of this information is available there. Or you can absolutely contact us by email or telephone and talk to one-on-one with any member of my team to discuss any questions you have around anything that we've talked about this evening. Next slide, please, Helen. Just want to show the membership hub was launched not so long ago. And when you log in, this is what you can see under the members tab there. If you click on it, select pharmacy support, and it will take you to different tiles and select the funding one. And there is information in there and the PQS as well. Next slide, please, Helen. Thank you. Brilliant. And this is what the registration process looks like for registering on the membership hub. Click on the portal, and this is an individual registration is now required to access it. You only need to do it once, and you're good to go after that. And that brings me to the end, which is a very quick sort of trip around what are the key changes based on what we've heard over the last few days. And remember, we're here to help. Please do get in touch. Thank you, Ben.
Jasmine, we're getting a couple of questions in the chat. Peter's asking, which you might have covered, but it might be worth going over again just in case people didn't pick it up, because there's an awful lot in this to cover. Peter's asking when the DSP regulations change, and somebody else in the chat is saying they have a contract to provide COVID vaccinations until March 2026. Does this mean we won't be able to, since regulations are expected in October 25? Or you're on mute, Jasmine. No.
Right. Hi. Apologies for that. So the DSP regulations, the change to the regulations is expected earlier than October. Hopefully, we should see them in the next, I'm hoping, couple of months, or at least 2-3 months, but they have to be drafted and published by the Department of Health. So hopefully they should not be as late as October. October is when the changes are supposed to kick in. So we are anticipating that they should be hopefully available by the summer on that. In terms of the other question around the contract to provide COVID-19 vaccinations as a DSP, we don't know about the changes yet, which is what I said earlier, is once the regulatory changes are published and then we understand what happens with the service that is currently being contracted for, that's when we will find out what that means. Does that mean, for example, that if you are able to provide it from your pharmacy premises at the moment as a DSP, that you will have to find an offsite premises to provide it from that has to be ICB approved? Or will it mean that there will be any concession to just finish the season and then start afresh? We just don't know at the moment. I'm sorry, so that's not something we're able to answer right now. Ben, I think there's another one.
I think there is. So our board colleague Ashley Cohen makes a brilliant point in the Q&A. He says it's so important that everybody who's an NPA member look at their business model. Important to grab all the NHS funding available, he says, but also important to limit or stop any underfunded service like deliveries or MDS in order to reduce your costs. Now, if you look in the chat, everyone, I've added links to a number of webinars that we've run over the past few months, which cover exactly these topics. It's there. They're all on YouTube. I've included the links, and they're there for you to watch at your leisure. But they include a brilliant session run by Patricia Ojo, one of our members, about how to stop doing things for free, if that's going to help you. And there's also a fantastic session that I went to a little while back with our Vice Chair, Olivier, who talks through his experience building up his practice in NHS services and maximising income from that and the benefit from his patients, but also how he's built up a significant private practice. And he goes through that in some detail about how it works, what it yields, how sustainable it is. So those are well worth watching when you have a moment. So there's an awful lot there in some of our previous material. It's worth also saying to everybody that we're doing a huge amount of work at the NPA at the moment on practical guides to how to set up and run and make successful private services, and which we're going to make available over the next couple of months as we finish them. We've done that in collaboration with some of our members who've done this extremely successfully. And my team has commissioned a big piece of market research, which will help give you guidance on what services consumers really want to see from their pharmacy in the future. And so we're going to complete that over the coming weeks, and we'll share that with all of you to support you as you try and increase your services and create business models that really work in the current environment. Let's see if there's anybody else.
Yes.
And Olivier's on the call, so that's good. Thanks, Olivier. We will share your detail. If you want to add to it, Olivier, raise your hand, and I think we can let you into the conversation.
There's also a comment from Ashley regarding the NMS contracting regulation. So he's saying, there could be some workarounds on how to use off-site pharmacists, but we are waiting for more details on this before giving more advice on how that might operate.
That's excellent. Olivia, I see you've joined us. I think Helen can let you on the chat, and you can speak to the assembled colleagues.
I just heard you talk about the private services presentation that I did, and we've had a few people listen to it, and I always get a few eyebrows raised, but it is definitely something. Whilst I wouldn't never endorse that, the solution is to offer private services to potentially fill a gap from NHS services, I think it's certainly an area which is growing in many parts of the country. And I know that we are going to do more masterclass about the private services, and I would encourage people to attend, even the face-to-face or online. Really well worth doing. A lot of questions are raised following the presentation, so I just thought if you need any support with that, and if we run the masterclass again, then very welcome to. And I know that I've been shared some dates where we might be traveling to Birmingham and Newcastle in the future, so up and down the country to share experience.
Brilliant, Olivier. Thank you very much indeed. I'm looking to see if there are any more questions in the chat. A few more have popped up. Let me have a look. One says, one's talking about the IP pathway program just ending in December. Jasmine, do you know what the next steps are on that?
Yes. Hi, Ben. So the IP pathway program is currently underway. We don't have clarity as yet on the funding for this pathway for this financial year as yet. But we do know that the funding of the program is in the ICB's hands, because ICBs are wholly in charge of delivering and operationalizing that program. So if I'm understanding this correctly, there seems to be some question around the funding that the ICB might have received for the program. And ICBs need to get in touch with NHS England Pharmacy Integration Team, who I am aware meets with ICBs regularly on a week or 2 weekly basis to discuss how the program is progressing, as well as any challenges they're experiencing, to help them along the way. So definitely the ICB just needs to contact the team with Ghulam and Bazim Bakir and Joshua, the NHS Pharmacy Integration Team, to pick that up directly with them in terms of the next steps they need to do for the local program delivery. But if need be, happy to have a chat with Pharmacy Prio as needed. Please give us a call to the Pharmacy Advice and Support Team. Thank you.
And just to add on that, I mean, there is concern about the IP Pathfinder programme, given the restructure in NHS England. Great risk to that programme not completing as it should do. But we're certainly raising that with NHS England, because it's incredibly important for the future of pharmacy. And actually, it was mentioned in the Labour Party manifesto. So the government has actually made a commitment to independent prescribing in pharmacy. So that should help ensure that programme can carry on and pave the way for IP to be part of commissioned pharmacy services.
I think Rupen has had a hand up. Helen's gonna let you in and do join us and say what your question is. If you come off mute, I'm sure everybody can hear. I think you're still muted. While we're sorting that out, Ashley makes the point that lots of independent contractors subcontracted NMS to help with capacity. He's hearing there are some workarounds on how to use off-site pharmacists. Gareth, Jasmine, I'm not sure where we are with that. It's certainly something we're looking at as a matter of urgency. I don't know whether there's anything extra we can say at the moment.
I'm happy to pick that one up if that's okay. Absolutely, I think the devil will be in the detail. We need to understand how it will affect, because, for example, if a pharmacy owns like multiple different legal entities, but it's the same pharmacy company, and pharmacists work across each other's sites, how that will pan out in terms of what offsite means, we don't know yet. So this is why it will be really important to scrutinize the wording of the regulations when they are published, with a view to understanding how that will be interpreted in practice. Because otherwise, if you look at it very sort of at face value at the moment, it sounds like to provide this NMS on site, you have to employ the pharmacist, but from the sound of it, locums will be able to provide it so long as they are providing the service from your pharmacy premises. But as I understand it at the moment, once everything changes, then locums, for example, would not be able to provide the NMS from anywhere else unless they're on the pharmacy premises. Now that sounds like very polarized. So we just need to understand if there's going to be any middle ground that will allow for nuanced interpretation of that. But we just need to wait and see. But yeah, we will definitely be looking into it to see how to support members in implementing the NMS, definitely.
That's great. Thank you, Jasmine. I see Pharmacy Prio, I'm sure that's your real name, has got your hand up. Do shout out the question.
Hi, yeah. Sorry, it was supposed to be Priory Pharmacy, but this I think Jasmine's spoken to me about the IP funding program, the pathway. So it was just you must have other ICBs that haven't. So the ICBs haven't asked. There was an allocated sum. They hadn't asked for it before April. So our LPC chief has said that you can email, and I have done previously. I've been, for the last 18 months, we've been in constant convo with our ICBs, with the chief commissioner, because I'm a PCN lead as well, and there was only two in Bob. Olivia will know because he's a part of Bob. But Frimley have started, and the stumbling block was obviously clear. Then it was proscript, that's all done now. But in terms of formulating a letter to push a commissioner to, like Gareth has said, NHSE is going to get devolved. Our ICB has run out of money. I think Ash Soni is an NPA, he'll know about the financials of Bob, and I think they're thinking of maybe merging. I'm not sure what's going on with Frimley and Bob. But before all that happens, we were promised, and we've put in a lot of work to send all our safeguarding certificates, get all the training, get all the competencies, and substantiate to them that we've got 3 IPs. All 3 of us have worked in surgeries for continued length of time. We just don't want to miss the boat where they just turn around and say, I'm sorry, because obviously we've done the DPP course with Norma, and that's all to aid the new cohort next year. And, you've got, 9 months? So the whole, what Gareth said, I think was really important, the Labour manifesto. And I think if I could speak to Gareth and get a quote of that, I can put that in the email, but it shouldn't be a contractor's duty to have to tell a commissioner to go and get the commissioning and put up a business proposal. That's not in our remit. I'm not getting paid to do it. Why is that the case? There should have been a stronger position from the CPE to and I know one will say it's ICB, the other one will say it's not us, but at the end of the day, you've got a whole cohort of IPs. We had to fund our own IP, we had to fund our own DPP. It's cost a lot of money, £9,000 to £10,000. There needs to be a very, very strong case towards this. I mean, I was on a collaboration meeting, a leadership in London with Amanda and Richard and all the NHSE team, David and everyone, and we sat on tables and we discussed this, and they were very, very proactive. They wanted us to continue. So I don't think the money in the NHSE has issues. It's the ICP commissioners, and contractors can only go a certain way with trying to convince a commissioner to fund it. It shouldn't be my remit to do that. I don't think it is. I think it's the CPEs. And I think if NPA, Gareth, you speak to, was it Glenn Waldock? I can't remember who the lawyer is at CPA. I forgot his name. But if you two can kind of push that agenda when you speak to, because I just don't want the time frame to go, because we were chosen. We had lots and lots of meetings back in 23. We're supposed to start in Jan. We allocated an employee. We've paid, and then it didn't start. And it was all to do with Clio, and then it was to do with this, and then it was the proscript. So it's been it's not been proactively where we should be going. The vision is obviously to have prescribers.
Yeah. So Gareth, if you want to address that directly, quickly, because we've got a couple more questions before we end. But I think we should probably be in touch direct to talk about the specifics.
Definitely.
I think we can. Yeah. We can certainly, for example, we can share with you the reference to this being now, government policy. I think we talked to the national team, and they want to hear if there are problems on the ground. So we can raise that with the national team, NHS England, and encourage them to intervene to try to sort out problems in a particular ICB where the programme isn't getting the support it needs.
Yeah. So Michael asks, we might have touched this on already, but they've tried to change their core hours to finish at 6 instead of 6:30. I think this is quite a common thing that people are trying to do. How easy will that be to do now?
Hi, Ben. So thank you for the question, Michael. And again, something that has been asked quite a lot. The proposed change is going to mean that contractors can apply to change their core hours, like you've just given the example, from 6 to 6:30. But as part of that, what will determine it is what the patient need is, or how the patients can access the pharmacy. And there is a requirement, not a requirement, we need to look at the wording of it, but there is a expectation that ICBs will also look at any financial evidence, etc. So at the moment, there isn't a guaranteed answer. I can say that you can just notify them or put the application in to say I want to reduce it, and it will be yes, agreed, just like that. This is still an application process, and there'll be criteria that the ICBs will be looking at to see whether it is. But hopefully, for half an hour, if you can demonstrate that that there is patient access available, maybe through other longer opening pharmacies, like pharmacies that have to open in the evenings, for example, etc., then is something that should be considered. But again, it would be each on the case-by-case basis. So once the criteria is determined on this, then we can absolutely guide you on that. But I'm hoping half an hour, you should be able to make a robust case for that, Michael. I think Olivia had the hand up on that.
Yes, Jasmine, I just wanted to say, similar to what you said, I think this was designed because if someone has contracted hours on a Saturday, for example, and I'll take the example of some of the Lloyd's pharmacy, which was a tactic that Lloyd's had implemented in a number of branches, and there'll be a number of people this evening who perhaps have purchased a Lloyd's pharmacy which has core hours on a Saturday. But if the difference between before and now is the fact that financial consideration was never part of the decision making. But if you can raise a case to say you're seeing one person on a Saturday between 9 and 12 and you've got core hours, prior to the new regulation, they would have said, I'm sorry, you've got core hours, you must stay open. Now they will consider an application on a case-by-case basis. And if you can make a case that shows that actually you are either losing money or it affects the viability of a pharmacy, and you can demonstrate that by reducing the hours and reducing locum cost and staff cost and everything else, you will protect the viability of your pharmacy, then that's certainly something that will work in your favor. And I think that's the most important bit, is prior to that, financial consideration were never being part of the decision making, but they are now. So it's not just a 30 minutes at the end of the day. It's for the Saturdays and a Sunday for those who have locked core hours.
Yeah, so we're just over time, and I'm conscious that everybody has had a hard day and doubtless needs to have something to eat or rest up. So we've got one last question which seems appropriate to round us off. Sacinda asks about the Save Our Pharmacy campaign. And I think Gareth and I can add to that. I mean, I think from my point of view, we've really brought the issues in pharmacy to a wider audience than they've ever had before, with all the coverage and attention we've had for everybody's actions, you know, the highlighting the financial difficulties people have had. And it's always on these occasions where I want to say thank you to everybody for supporting us with our days of action, with our ballot, and with our media work. We are looking really carefully at the most effective way forward, because in the end, all this attention has undoubtedly changed the conversation and undoubtedly focused minds in government to give the sector a better deal than it had. But in the end, it's there for a purpose. It's there to open doors to government, and it's there to help us make the best case on everybody's behalf. But we're definitely not going to go silent, and we'll keep on raising the issues. You'll find us doing that in different ways. And if you see us writing, you know, doing stories about different issues, the underlying message will be the importance of community pharmacies, what they mean to millions of people in our country, and the reason why they need support. So you know, our campaign will change and evolve in these new circumstances, but we're definitely not going away. Gareth, do you want to say something about you know, what you're doing with policymakers and decision makers?
Yeah, I think yeah, probably just 2 points I wanted to make. You know, for the first time in 14 years, we have an economic analysis of community pharmacy, and not only is it a document that tells us what you know the requirement is now, but it talks about the next 5 years. So you know, a key part of what we're doing is ensuring that actually government commissioned this paper, and actually that it over the coming years it does a lot more to close the gap that exists at the moment. But alongside that, we want to do a piece of work looking at reform of the contract. You know, there are numerous problems with the community pharmacy contract. It doesn't work in very many areas. So we want to pitch ideas to government to have a better contract, and one that helps ensure there's a sustainability for the sector. So these are all conversations that we need to have with government over the coming months and years.
Thanks, Gareth. So because we're slightly over the time we said, I'm going to say thank you to everybody for coming, and thank you for listening today. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Gareth, for some great insights. And I'm going to leave the last word, if that's not rude of me, to Olivier, because obviously we're led by our members at the NPA, so that's the most important thing. Olivier, do you want to say a final word before we go?
Yes, I mean, you know, some people will know me as the eternal optimist, and I have to say, the deal that has been offered by the NHS announced last week is by no means something that will sort out the pharmacy sector. It's important for the NPA to work with policymakers. It's important that we engage with politicians. It's important to continue talking to your MPs and get your patient to raise concerns on your behalf. The NPA is here for you, and as the vice chair, I think it's really heartwarming to see the engagement of members. So we look forward to seeing you on the road. Enjoy your evening, keep working hard, and we'll keep pushing for the next best deal that Community Pharmacy England can get for us. And on that note, I wish you all a pleasant evening. Thank you to Ben, Gareth, and Jasmine for giving their evening up, and we'll catch up with you all soon.